So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take some of the key ideas I presented at A-Fest in Maui last year and digest them for everyone here in about an hour. So what you're going to learn are some of the highlights and the philosophy behind A-Fest. See, this isn't just a seminar with a bunch of random speakers talking about different topics. After I'm done with this presentation, you'll understand that there's a particular framework and sequence to what you're about to learn. Now, for those of you who were here in Maui, some of the stuff you see might be familiar to you, but I hope you'd still stay because it's a really good recap. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to ask you to update the 3 most important questions list that you created at Maui, and we're going to do it with this new group of A-Festers. Okay? So, let's get started. Daniel, could we get the presentation up? So I call this the theory of awesomeness, and yes, it is a scientifically validated theory. See, in New York in 2002, that was the apartment I lived in. Now, that was really where Mind Valley was started. I moved into the apartment. I was earning maybe a really low salary. This was in Times Square. Back in 2002, this was one of the most unsafe parts of New York. And in fact, this is really the apartment that Mind Valley started in. So it's kind of interesting that one of the world's biggest meditation companies actually started there because 2 years before we moved in, this was technically a Thai massage parlor. And we all know what Thai massage parlor means in reference to Times Square. Yes, Mind Valley was started in a former whorehouse. Now, since then we've grown. We now have beautiful offices, about 100 people from 31 countries. We're now based in Malaysia. But I want to tell you about my background, because a lot of people think that, I had it easy, I graduated with good grades, I'm smart, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't like that. 11 years ago, that means right now we're looking at October, November 2012. 11 years ago, exactly 11 years ago, this very month, I was broke. I was living in Silicon Valley. I could not afford an apartment, so I was basically sleeping on a friend's couch. And it wasn't even like a 3-seater sofa, it was like a 2-seater, so my legs hung off like this. I had no insurance, got into a car accident, had to pay for my car and the van I had wrecked, and I had no job. I was sending out my resume to every job on Craigslist, hoping that someone would accept me. That's what I was 11 years ago. Things started changing very rapidly. Now, a couple of things about my background, right? Firstly, I was a C+ student. I almost flunked out of college. I was working for a nonprofit for under the poverty line when I graduated because I couldn't get a real job. I failed at my first business, putting me $30K in debt. The only job I could get to allow me to get off that couch and actually pay rent was a commission-only sales gig, working, dialing for dollars. If you didn't close a sale, you did not get paid. I got demoted from that job. I started an online marketing company, which later grew into Mind Valley. First year, all we made was $20,000, which was just barely enough to survive in New York. Worse, I got added to the special registration watch list for suspicious travelers because this was like a year out. Why are you clapping? Right, great. So I'm on a watch list. You now feel safer. Thank you. Yes. See, after September 11, if you were brown and unshaven like me, and you show up in JFK, weird shit would happen. So one day I showed up in JFK, they pulled me aside and they told me I was now on this watch list where I could only fly in and out of the US in certain airports, but the worst was this. I had to live on parole. I'd never been in prison, never done, you can trust me, I'm not a threat to your way of life, but what happened was every 30 days I had to go get fingerprinted and photographed at the immigration office. So I thought, screw this shit, I'm gonna just move to a different country. And that's how Mind Valley ended up in Malaysia. So again, you can see we went through some pretty rocky times. But the funny thing was this, that first year, before I got added to the watch list and had to leave the country, that first year when I was trying to build my business, it really wasn't about building a business. It was about this strange little game I had going with my friends. See, I started a little website, and the first month I lost money, the second month I lost money. By month 3, I was making a grand frickin' total of $4.50 every single day. Now that was cool, because I dug Starbucks. And what this meant is I could walk into any Starbucks in New York and with that $4.50, get a grande coffee. Now by month 4, I was making $6.50 a day. Now, venti with whipped cream and hazelnut flavoring. That was pretty cool. By month 5, I was earning about 12 bucks. Now it was a grande venti coffee and a Subway sandwich, and that's what I lived on, Starbucks and Subway. And I was proud of it. I would remember being in bars with my friends and brag to them about this online business that allowed me to drink Starbucks and eat Subway for free every single day. And in my mind, that was it. It turned into a game. I had actually gamified the process. I was loving it. I was loving the entire process. I didn't really care that, there'd be days when I'd lose money or that the grand total profit for a single day's work might sometimes just be 12 bucks. It was a game and I freaking loved it. Then, 1 year later, the money really started adding up. And I had to certainly build a business. Now we were in Malaysia. Those were our first employees. And all of a sudden, the fun stopped, the game stopped. Now I had to worry about employees, taxes, rent, all that other stuff that I didn't really want to care about. And things started collapsing. For the next 4 years, I wasn't having fun. I was miserable. I liked coming to work, but we had a lousy office, horrible commutes, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't grow the business. It was 4 years of struggle. The funny thing is, in 2008, which isn't that long ago, something shifted in me. And I certainly went back to my Starbucks and Subway days. Something shifted. And when that shift happened, the Mind Valley, the business, and my life suddenly started accelerating. Within 1 year of that shift, I was a cash millionaire. Even though in 2008, I was actually in debt. I owed more money than I was bringing in. My business partner was also in debt for his education. We'd been running a business for 5 to 6 years, but was still broke. But 1 year after that shift, the business had grown 400%. We had $1 million cash each in the bank, and life just started growing, improving at this tremendous pace. So the question is, what was that shift? I had it in year 1, then I lost it for the next 4 years, then it came back later, and you can see our revenue growth and how that shift corresponded to it. It came back in 2008. Now, that mind shift is what I now call the theory of awesomeness. Sometimes in some presentations I refer to it as the flow state, but it's basically that. And it's based on me recognizing that there was a subtle balance in what was going on in my life. It was a balance of two opposing forces. One was the idea of being happy in the now. The other, having a vision for the future. Really simple. Happy in the now, vision for the future. Being happy with where you are right now, being content, even if you're making $4 a day, getting a free cup of Starbucks coffee, yet having a vision of what you want to build in the future. But it's a really delicate balance, and the fact is maybe less than 1% of the population happens to achieve it. Now, based on this balance, you can exist in 4 different states of mind. The first is a negative spiral. You're not happy, and you have no vision for the future. In other words, you're depressed. And when you're depressed, life sucks, and you're probably going to need to seek some serious help. The second state is what the vast majority of humanity is in. You're happy in the now, but you have no vision for the future. So what's going on over here is you're content with your life. You're content with your job, but there's no vision pulling you forward. Now, some people might ask, well, if I'm happy, what's the problem, right? But this is the problem. If you aren't growing, you're doing a disservice to your mission and to the world. You've got to dream big, play big, push your boundaries. In the words of Marianne Williamson, let your light shine so that you can grant permission for others to do the same. Yet, most people in the world stay content with just living in the now, but not having a true vision for where they want to take their life and how they want to serve the planet. Now, then you come to another big group of humanity. I estimate this to be about 20%. They have a vision for the future, but they are not happy in the now. Now, these are often entrepreneurs. You have that vision for that next bold office, that next sales goal, that next revenue target, the next group of employees you want to hire. But for whatever reason, because there's a disconnect between your vision and where you are now, you cause yourself to feel stress, anxiety, or worse, unhappiness. You forget to live in that now. And finally, there's the fourth state, where you are happy in the now, and you have a vision for the future. Now, here's the crazy thing, right? And I can't really explain why this works, but I've constantly found that when you're in this fourth state, the state of flow, it's almost as if the universe has your back. And I can't explain it, but it's as if the right people, the right coincidences, the right opportunities just seemingly come out of space and come to you. Has anyone experienced this? Almost everyone has. The trick, though, is staying in that state for longer and longer periods of time. So that's what I'm hoping to teach you guys today. The recognition of the flow state and giving you guys some tools that will let you stay in this flow state for extended periods of time. So it's a mental state of mind in which you are pulled forward by big goals, yet happy where you are now. It creates a feeling of growth and a feeling of being lucky. So that's pretty much how you can visualize it. And we tend to move between those four boxes throughout our life. The trick is staying consistently in flow. When you can pull this off, your impact on the planet, your life, starts skyrocketing towards really epic awesomeness. I can't think of a more technical word. Okay. Awesome! Isn't that cool? So, thank you, Sean. Now, the paradox of intention comes from a great book called Quantum Success, and I like the way the author summarized it. You must have goals, but your happiness cannot be tied to these goals. You must be happy before you attain your goals. Think about that. You have to learn to detach your happiness from your goals. Your goals exist, but your happiness should not be tied to them. See, I never felt unhappy if during year one I did not win a free cup of Starbucks coffee, because what was it? A free cup of Starbucks coffee. But when you, so it's good to have goals, but the thing is, you cannot tie your happiness to it. Now, there's this awesome quote that describes probably one of the most amazing men who lived this century, and it says, and this is what this man was described as by his biographer. The root of his reality distortion was his belief that the rules did not apply to him. He had evidence for this. In childhood, he had often been able to bend reality to his desires. He had a sense that he was the chosen one. He thinks that there are few people who are special, like Einstein and Gandhi and the gurus he met in India, and he's one of them. And I've noticed this about a lot of great entrepreneurs or businessmen or revolutionaries I've studied. They seem to feel that they can almost bend reality. I believe this is true. And I've constantly noticed this in my life. Weird coincidences that defy the laws of probability being able to enter into my space and elevate my life and my business. In fact, before the word bend reality was used in this book to describe Steve Jobs, I bought the domain bending reality. It was going to be the title of my book. But that's what Steve Jobs believed. And I've noticed this with multiple entrepreneurs. Another great American entrepreneur said this: I go into every situation expecting to win. Thinking like this often turns into a self-fulfilling prophecy. That was Sam Walton, another man who believed that he could, in every sense of the word, control luck. Sam Walton built the biggest company in the world before Apple took over that title. And think about this. See if you can guess who wrote this. I was early taught to work as well as play. My life has been one big happy holiday, full of work and full of play. I dropped the worry on the way, and God was good to me every day. Notice, he talks about dropping worry. He talks about play and work being merged together. And when he talks about God being good to him, you know, you could replace that with luck or opportunities or the universe. This was written over 100 years ago. It was written by John D. Rockefeller, the richest man who lived in the world 100 years ago. So again, you notice a pattern here. I've noticed this with people I've gotten to know myself, like Sir Richard Branson. I've spent I've been on his private island with him a number of times. We've had a couple of deep conversations on the beach together. And I ask him questions. And one of the things I ask him is, how do you manage 300 companies? And he says, I make lots of lists. That's it. No productivity tools, nothing. I just make lots of lists. When I wake up in the morning, I make a list of all the things I want to accomplish. And if you look at Richard's list, it's not stuff like pick up milk on the way home from work that morning. It's stuff such as launch an airline in Nigeria, build a new kind of gym, take over the US mobile phone industry. It's epic, aspirational list. At another opportunity, I was with Richard, and we asked him, you're always happy. What do you do when you're sad? And this is what he said: I can't remember the bad times. I only remember the good things that happen in my life. And it's something else I notice about Branson. He's always about having fun. He has these crazy goals. He's one of the biggest thinkers I've ever met. Yet, he's perpetually in play. And if you read his biographies, even in moments of failure, it doesn't really faze him much. He bounces back really quickly. Donald Trump said the same thing. Donald Trump has amassed phenomenal wealth. He's also lost phenomenal wealth. But in his book, Goals, he talks about this concept he calls positive stamina. He says it's one of the biggest ingredients for success. And positive stamina is simply your ability to bounce back when things go wrong, to disassociate your happiness from you failing to attain your goal, but to stay happy no matter what. Happiness, in other words, creates success, not success creating happiness. Gary, would you stand up for a second? I love what it says on your shirt. And I know you live this, Gary. Gary runs a 50-person company in Australia, and his company was just voted second best place to work in Australia. Another awesome tribe member you want to meet. So, back to the 11 commandments of happiness, right? How does this relate to what we are talking about right now? Well, if you look at it, it's about two things: happy in the now, vision for the future. Every talk, everything we do here at Awesomeness Fest is designed to elevate you in both these areas. That's why this isn't just a goal-setting seminar. That's why we inject so much fun and happiness and connection. So again, if you look at the items, spirituality, being in a natural state, having an energetic body, having great social circles that inspire you, self-awareness contribute to being happy. And aspiration, wealth, optimism, mission, experiences contribute to vision for the future. Education really falls under both realms. Every talk, every speaker here at Awesomeness Fest is really giving a talk in one of these areas. So, happiness in the now, how do we get there? What I'm going to teach you next are a couple of really simple hacks. Hacks to basically work with your brain to elevate levels of happiness, scientifically proven hacks, and hacks to elevate your aspiration. And in the next 30 minutes, what I'm hoping to do is completely transform the way you view your life and undo years of bad programming from schools, parents, teachers, preachers. Okay? So the first thing is that you need to understand is this. As human beings, our physical evolution is way ahead of our spiritual evolution. Now, here's what I mean. I want you all to raise your right hand. Go ahead. Now, take that right hand and wrap it around the person on your right. Great. Get a little cozy. Now, I want you to gently take your left hand, push their hair back, lean up, and sniff their neck. And if you don't know them, that's cool. It makes it even more awkward. Make a new friend. That's seriously, just take a deep whiff. If you want, you could massage their head a bit. Great. You can stop now. You can continue this tonight at the beach. Now, let me ask you guys this. What did you smell? Anyone? Hair. Okay. What else did you smell? Cocoa butter? Okay. What else? You smell love? Whoa. Whoa there, stallion. Okay. What else did you smell? Okay. Well, see, the thing is, if we'd done this exercise 100 years ago, all of you would have stank. 100 years ago, on average, people showered maybe once a week, once a month even, if they were lucky. People did not spray on cologne or deodorant or perfumes. People stank. But in the last 100 years, we've learned to take care of our bodies. We wash our clothes after a single day's use. We shower every single day. We spray on all sorts of chemicals on our body to make us smell good. Yet, we forget to do the same thing to our mind. So we'll wake up in the morning feeling stress or anxiety or being upset or not looking forward to that particular day at work, and we do nothing about it. In other words, we wash our body, but we fail to wash our minds on a daily basis. And the funny thing is, the mind wash, or things that allow you to wash your mind, get rid of negative energies or emotions, is the best way to keep you in flow because it elevates your level of happiness right now, immediately. So how do you wash your mind? Well, there are a couple of ways, but the idea I want to introduce to you is the concept of blisscipline, the idea that staying happy on a daily basis is the most important discipline, the discipline of bliss. We call this blisscipline. So, how do you do this in the morning? A couple of things. You can do this, I recommend you do any of these 5 items every morning when you wake up. Number 1 is meditation, and you all know how to do that. You can start by attending Tom and Nick's session tomorrow. Number 2, visualization. I often like to start the day just sitting down, meditating, and visualizing like my perfect life unfolding. I like to spend 3 to 4 minutes visualizing my career and my life over the next 3 years. Second, intention setting. Some people call this segment intending. And it's really the idea of, and when you start your day, you declare how you want your day to unfold. You declare mentally in your head that you're going to have an amazing commute, that you're going to have an amazing lunch, that that project that you're preparing is going to be delivered to the boss on time and he's going to be super impressed, that you're going to have an amazing date that night, a wonderful dinner, and so on and so on and so on. It's as if you're practicing the idea that you can set an intention of how you want every aspect of your life to unfold. Funny thing is, the more you practice this, the more it tends to appear that you're actually influencing your life. Once again, I can't explain how it works, but it works. Inspirational readings. I love, last year we gave away Philosopher's Notes, which was a series of powerful book summaries to everyone at Awesomeness Fest. Inspirational readings are great. I love reading book summaries like Philosopher's Notes, or just going through a couple of pages from a biography of someone who inspires me, just to elevate that level of happiness in the day. Then there's Mookie, which is Morning Nookie. It gets chemicals going, it makes you happy, strongly recommend it. Finally, there's gratitude, which is one of the best ways to raise that level of happiness. A study by University in California showed that if you practice gratitude for 5 minutes every day, after 30 days, in that study, you're actually 25% happier than the control group that did not. In short, simple exercise, 5 minutes a day, raises your level of happiness by 25%. It wasn't about boosting your salary by 25%. It wasn't about finding the new love of your life. It was the simple exercise of gratitude. And again, scientifically validated. Now, you don't hear much about studies like this. Instead, you hear about situations such as you got to pop a Prozac pill to make yourself happy. Why? Because the pharmaceutical lobby, massive. The gratitude lobby, not so big. Okay? So, one of my entrepreneurial mentors introduced this concept to me. His name is Dan Sullivan, right? And it's just a really cool idea that will help you understand how to apply gratitude. Because of all the ones I've suggested, gratitude is probably the quickest and the easiest to do. So Dan Sullivan calls this the gap. Most people, if you look at this, they spend their lives focused on the reverse gap. They spend their lives focused on the gap, which is the difference between the future that they want and where they are now. Problem is, if you're focused on that gap, the difference between the future that you want and where you are now, you tend to create stress and anxiety. But what Dan says is, if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, practice the following. Learn to appreciate where you are now compared to where you were 1 year ago. So close your eyes for a moment. Think about where you were 1 or 2 or 3 years ago. Think about where you are now. That's the reverse gap. And just think about how much you've grown, developed, accomplished in that last 1 year. What you're just doing right now, whether you know it or not, is expressing gratitude for your last 1 year. It's a really simple concept. And Dan trains some of the best entrepreneurial minds I know. He doesn't talk about business strategy. This, in fact, is one of his most important trainings. It's amazing how well this works. So, Paulo Coelho, you can open your eyes now. Paulo Coelho, who's one of my favorite authors. Who else here is a Coelho fan? Great. So Paulo Coelho said this: there's one great truth on this planet. Whoever you are, whatever it is that you do, when you really want something, it's because that desire originated in the soul of the universe. The soul of the world is nourished by people's happiness. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. I love that quote, but here's why. Look at the last line. When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Now, you can interpret that any way you wish. I interpret it like this, that we and the universe are one, and our desires excite the universe to help bring those desires to us. But that last line is dependent on the second to last line, which is this: the soul of the universe is nourished by people's happiness. Take away the happiness, and it becomes harder for the universe to conspire to help you. So you see, we get it wrong. Success doesn't create happiness. Happiness creates success. Does that make sense? Yep. So let's now give you a couple of mind hacks for vision for the future. And I'm going to give you my favorite mind hack. Okay, so the first thing to understand is that society has brainwashed you. What we think we want and what we truly want are two completely different things. So what is it that we think we want? Well, From the time you're young, you're trained to believe that you need to go to high school, you need to get good grades, then you need to make it into a good college, then you need to get a good GPA, then you need to get a job, you need to earn a decent wage, you need to save, you need to study something that will hopefully pay back for your college debt, you need to find a good woman or a man, you need to get married, you need to get kids. There are all these rules that society says we have to live by. The result is the fact that 95% of Americans, or Canadians, or people all around the world, they basically grow up with this belief that they got to slave and sacrifice the first 50 years of their life so that they can someday retire and then take a vacation in places like Cancun. But what if all of that is wrong? What if those were simply means goals? And if those are means goals, and means goals are simply a means to an end, what are end goals like? When end goals are the things that truly make you happy. End goals are things such as studying something you truly love. I studied computer engineering and I hated it. I actually got myself fired from Microsoft. What I wanted to be was an actor and a photographer. So in college, I failed at everything except performing arts and photography. I wasted 4 years of college because I was pursuing a means goal. Because to me, I didn't see photography or theater as being my path to happiness. I thought it was going to be getting a computer engineering degree. And all of us make this mistake. So the idea is you forget the means, you go straight for the end. You go straight for the idea that there are certain visions and ends in the world that you want to experience. Maybe it's amazing travel. Maybe it's opportunities for growth. Maybe it's meeting the love of your life. Maybe it's moving to South America for a year. And you hack your way to that end. I'll show you how in a moment. Okay? So why do so many of us end up there? It's because of this concept called rules. A rule is simply a bullshit rule. A rule that does not need to exist, but society drums it up. So, what are rules? Well, firstly, remember this. Outside the rule of physics and the rule of law, all other rules are illusions we have chosen to believe. Smash the ones that no longer apply to you. The only rules that are meant to exist are the rule of law and the rules of physics. Everything else, a rule. I met a guy called Peter Diamandis once, and he transformed my life because he's a guy who just refuses to play by the rules. Peter Diamandis started the X Prize Foundation, and he is the guy who helped move mankind to space. Basically, what Peter did was he decided to raise $1 million and $10 million, and declared that this was going to go to whichever engineer or entrepreneur could figure out a way to make private space travel possible. They had to build a plane that could take 2 people to space, land, and go back to space and land again. Someone did build that plane. It was acquired by Richard Branson. It became Virgin Galactic. And Peter Diamandis and the X Prize helped pave the way for space travel. Now, Peter says that's not enough. There's so much more he wants to do. So he's launched an X Prize for education, to bring education to third world countries. He's launched an X Prize to bring fuel efficiency to cars. He's launched X Prizes to solve all the world's problems. And he's constantly launching these. But this is how Peter thinks, right? So when Peter first wanted to build the X Prize for space travel, he went to NASA, and I'm gonna read this out to you. I had tried to get on NASA's zero-G plane and couldn't. I thought there must be a market for this, so we raised 500 grand. We walked into the California Space Authority office and pitched the idea. They said regulations wouldn't allow a plane to do a parabolic flight and with passengers whose seatbelts were unstrapped. And I said, that's bullshit. I proceeded in an 11-year effort to get permission from the Federal Aviation Administration. Today, we've flown 300 flights, 12,000 customers. Amazing. Now, did Peter stop? No. This year in April, Peter launched Planetary Resources, a company to mine asteroids. It was all over the news, all over the Daily Show, and that's the kind of man he is. Who says we can't mine asteroids? Just like that movie Armageddon. That's what he's doing next. It's crazy cool. So what are your rules? What are the bullshit rules that you've chosen to believe? Is it the idea that maybe you need a master's degree to be successful? Or you need to get a good job? Or you need to complete that law degree? Or accountancy degree, even worse? The pursuit of money is inherently bad. This rule holds so many people back from wealth. Money is freaking amazing. Yet, we've been trained to believe it's bad. I had a guilt issue around money as well, and it dramatically held back my business. College education is necessary. I don't think it is. In fact, one of the people in our audience, Michael Ellsberg. Michael, are you here right now? Okay, Michael's not here right now, but Michael wrote an amazing book called The Education of Millionaires, where he interviewed 100 millionaires and billionaires. And one of the common themes of the book is that they all did alternative education or dropped out of college. It's a fascinating read. Aging is a part of life. I've met people who really believe that they do not age, and they look decades younger than what they are. Success equals hard work. Horrible rule. Success does not equal hard work. Do I look like I work hard? I actually don't. I'm in frickin' Cancun right now, and this is my job. There's a masculine and feminine way of doing business. One is close to me based on the fact that I do not possess a penis or a vagina. In fact, we possess both. It's called a penina. And you can, operate in a masculine or a feminine style. Then one rule I really hate, be realistic in your goals. Be realistic. In fact, there's a whole methodology of goal setting called SMART. And SMART, it's supposed to stand for something. I hate that methodology with a passion. The R in it is supposed to stand for realistic. Absolute rubbish. Do not be realistic. Realistic people forget this one thing, intuition. And this is very important when I teach you this mind hack. The idea is this. You do not need to know how to attain your goal to set that goal. So when I met Branson, one of the things I remember asking him is, how do you choose your business partners? And he said this, I make up my mind about whether I can trust someone within 60 seconds of meeting them. Within 60 seconds of shaking a person's hand, he knows whether he wants to do business with this person. Intuition. Now, Napoleon Hill, in his book Think and Grow Rich, said this, a genius is a man who has discovered how to increase the intensity of thought to a point where he can freely communicate with sources of knowledge not available through ordinary rate of thought. Sources of knowledge not available through ordinary rate of thought. That's intuition. That was written about 80 years ago, before that word was even popularly used. And then there's this quote from Walter Isaacson's book, Steve Jobs. This is describing Steve. Throughout his life, he would seek to follow basic precepts of Eastern religions, such as the emphasis on experiential prana, wisdom, or cognitive understanding that is intuitively experienced through concentration of the mind. Steve Jobs seemed to believe in intuition, or at least his biographer seems to suggest it. In short, intuition, however, is easy. It's not a gift you're born with. There are some highly intuitive people. I know a couple in the audience here, but intuition is sparked when you know what you want, but you do not have to know how to get there. So, I make a habit of setting crazy goals without actually knowing how I'm going to accomplish them, and these goals start unfolding. So, the idea that you need to set realistic goals is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever encountered, and it holds so many people back. Do not be realistic. Promise me you will never be realistic. I want you to raise your hand right now and say, I will set unrealistic goals. And I'll figure a way to get there. And that's really it. That's how it works. So, what is an unrealistic goal? Well, here's a great quote on goal setting by Joe Vitale, right? A good goal should scare you a little and excite you a lot. So when you're writing down the goals in this next exercise, make sure that you write down stuff that does discomfort you a little. It should scare you a little. That's when you know you're pushing through the boundary of realistic goals. But it should also excite you a lot. That's when you know it's going to spark passion. Okay? So now we're going to get to that hack. You see, when it comes to goal setting, this is the most beautiful exercise I know. And it's a massive shortcut to goal setting. I call it the 3 most important questions. Now, many of you have done this. You've seen my video online, or you did this at Awesomeness Fest last year. Not a problem. You're going to do it again, because in the last 1 year, you've probably come up with additional ideas, additional visions, and aspirations that you want to put down. So take out an iPad or a notebook or a laptop or anything you can write on. And this is what you're going to do. You're going to make 3 lists. That's it. No big deal, just 3 lists. And you're going to answer the following 3 questions. And I'm going to give you no more than 3 minutes per question. Okay, so the 3 questions are this. The first one is, what experiences, objects do I want in this lifetime? Second question is, how do I want to grow? And the third question is, how do I want to contribute? Now, why are these questions important? Well, I believe that we are souls having a physical experience. And let's think about that for a moment, right? Souls having a physical experience. So what exactly would the soul be craving? Experiences. And that's why the first question is about experiences. What are the experiences I want to have in my life? Now let's go on to the second 2 questions. Tony Robbins, in an amazing TED Talk, said we all have 6 great spiritual needs. 6 great needs. And 2 really powerful spiritual needs. 2 needs that resonate from our soul. And those 2 spiritual needs are the need to grow and the need to contribute. And that's where question 2 and question 3 comes in. How do I want to grow, and how do I want to contribute? So when I think of goal setting, to me it's really these 3 things. What do I want to experience? How do I need to grow? And how do I want to contribute? And remember, you're going to answer these, but you're going to forget the rules. You're going to forget the idea that you may not know how to accomplish that particular goal. You may not know how you're going to learn to play a symphony and a piano 5 years from now. You may not know how you're going to build a $10 million business 3 years from now. And it doesn't matter. You're simply going to write down these goals. Okay, so let's start with the first question. And here's really how it's going to work. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. You're going to write this down. And 3 minutes may seem short, but that's fine. It's simply a way to get you started. You can come back to this list and expand upon it anytime. And if you have your old list with you, that's even better. Okay, so let's start with 3 minutes. Now, you really don't need more than 3 minutes because you already know this. You already know, you've already thought about those experiences you wanted, those objects you wanted. You've just never written them down because you thought they were unrealistic or too difficult. So assume you were blessed with luck. Assume the universe was conspiring on your behalf. Assume that you don't have to know how you're going to get it. The answer will come to you through tapping into your intuition. Write down the experiences, the objects you'd like to experience. And as you're writing this down, I'll toss out some ideas. Think about your love life. What would that look like? Who do you want to wake up to in the morning? Think about your social life. Who are your friends? Who do you travel with? How do you spend your time with the most important people around you? Think about money. What are the objects you'd love to buy and acquire if you had unlimited access to money? Think about your travels. Where would you travel? What places would you visit? Okay, stop writing. And remember, you can go back to this list anytime. I just wanted to get you taking that first baby step. Who would like to share one of the items they put down? Yes. Mike Rennes already? Yeah. Just 1 second. Mike Rennes is going to come up to you.
A Lamborghini.
Say that again.
A Lamborghini.
A Lamborghini. Awesome. Next.
Jeff, I want to experience the ecstasy of hearing Monty's theme song on Broadway and in an elevator.
I want to create a self-sustaining community in Canada and have it be the example for the rest of the country to see the different ways that they can build homes and live in harmony with nature and the world.
Awesome. Gary?
I'd like to have dinner parties with brainiacs and exchange ideas over food, and we could cook together. I thought that just came to mind, so.
Awesome. Gary?
Is this thing on?
A world full of people who are appreciative of the now and excited about the future.
Awesome. Thank you. And now, we're going to go on to the second question. How do you want to grow? Now again, like Tony Robbins said, growth is a deep spiritual need. And if we aren't growing, we are stagnating. So, what you're going to write down here, ideas on how you want to improve your learning, your skills. I'm going to give you a few things to get started with. So I've started the timer. Feel free to start writing. And as you're writing, I'll toss out some ideas. Health and fitness. What would you like your body to look like 4, 5, 10 years from now? Would you run a marathon? Have a daily gym practice? Get some six-packs? Be able to do a pectoral dance? Your spiritual life. How often would you meditate, pray? How deep do you want to get with your spiritual abilities? Your intellectual life. What books would you read? How many seminars would you attend? What new skills would you learn? Musical instruments, or business skills, or creative skills? Okay, let's have a few people share. Yes.
My name is Megan. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Megan Jennifer. And one of the things that I really want to grow in is to revamp and polish all of my scales. I'm a violinist, and I've gotten out of practice. So I want to commit to revamping those and growing and increasing that skill set again for every weekday and not the days that I'm on vacation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mine's really simple. I want to live to 150.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or
Mila,
more.
right up front.
I got it.
One of those ones that I have no idea how to do, but I put down, understand on an experiential level the nature of the universe.
Awesome. Right over there.
I would like to meet with, work with, and study under the top mind, body, spirit gurus on the planet.
Thank you. I have many, but one is to be an unconditionally loving, totally giving, and very playful grandma for my grandson.
Awesome. So,
Hey.
the last one.
I wrote, sponge up all tech-savvy innovations for my toolbox.
Awesome. Now we go on to the final question, right? And if you guys hadn't figured it out by now, what you're really doing is building a bucket list. That final question is, how do you want to contribute to the world? And again, Tony Robbins said, experiences, all that other stuff will bring you happiness, but fulfillment comes from giving. So, what would now you can contribute through your career by writing a great book, doing great service at work, through your family life by raising great kids. The Dalai Lama said it best, you're happy when you help others become happy. Okay, so start writing. What are the different ways you would want to contribute to the world? What gifts can you give? How would you elevate others? And you can contribute through time, money, sharing your skills, creating art or books or music that contribute to human creativity. And once again, we'll have a few people share. Yes.
Hi. I want to create a nonprofit center that will help to educate and elevate humanity to be its best in mind, body, and spirit.
Right at the back there.
Hi, I'm Jessica. I would like to correct the misalignment between what the education institutions offer and what the labor markets want by providing youth with a platform in which they can unleash their potential, their leadership potential, and find their dream jobs or create their dream jobs.
I want to help create societal change by helping people to understand that they have a connection to the divine and that the law of attraction allows them to take personal responsibility for their bodies, their minds, their finances, and their spirit.
I want to share with others concepts of old ways of thinking versus new ways of thinking that will allow freedom and power.
Awesome.
My name is Eduardo. I want to help 1 million plus people feel safe and at home wherever they are in the world.
Thanks, Eduardo. Last one.
I'm on the same page, but mine's about finding 1 million empowered women to commit to helping 10 women each to become empowered.
Thank you. Now, I want you to remember this. Your true greatness comes when you focus on building a life, not a career. That's where society has it wrong. We are forced to go through these different hurdles when really it's about what does that end life look like. Now, what are the applications of this? Well, I use this list. I call it the 3 most important questions. I use this list in so many ways. If you were to walk into the Mind Valley office in Kuala Lumpur, we have what is probably the world's biggest vision board. And we have the 3 most important questions for all our employees stuck on that board with a picture of them, all 100 employees. And when I'm having lunch with one of my employees, a one-on-one mentoring lunch, I have them bring that list. And now when you are sitting down with someone and you know their list, you know their 3 most important questions, this is amazing because it's basically like having a blueprint into their soul. You know exactly how they're looking to contribute, what they want to experience, how they want to grow. And it becomes a powerful management tool because we now as a company can give back to the employee as well. And we also know what drives them, what motivates them. Now imagine if you did this with your sons and daughters, with your family. I have a friend, and many of you have heard of him. He spoke at the first Awesomeness Fest, Sean Stevenson. And Sean told me that when he really wants to connect with someone, when he really feels like someone is becoming a close friend, he Facebook messaged them and he says, hey, send me your bucket list. That's the only way we're going to be friends, because he wants to see that blueprint. And this is really what you guys have done. But you've gone beyond just a mere bucket list, because still many people's bucket lists are stuffed with realistic goals, are stuffed with stuff that they can see how to get there, but they fail to put the items that they still don't know the path to. And that's a mistake. So what you've just created is a truly powerful list, a list that many of you are going to hold on to, and are probably going to consider one of the most important pieces of paper you have in your life. I've seen amazing things emerge from these lists. I do this with my team at every Mind Valley team retreat, and 1-2 years later, I'd have people showing me the list they put down in 2007 or 8, and the crazy places that they wrote down that they ended up traveling to, the crazy accomplishments they put down, like 24-year-olds who put down, I want to talk at MIT, and at the age of 27, speaking at MIT. Those kind of things were happening. And again, none of these kids knew how to get there, knew how to get that book published, knew how to start their online business, but somehow the universe conspired on their behalf. And that really is what I want to teach you how to do. Welcome to Awesome Living. Thank you. Thanks. Okay.